Hey everyone, welcome to a very special episode of Quality Talks podcast. I'm Chris. I'm not Chris. Who's Chris? I've got. Do you know what it is? I've got two Chris's. I've got a Chris, and you may have noticed I've got a Christine on the podcast this evening. And I'm just too excited that I've completely screwed my intro up. I've completely screwed my words up, but I don't care because it's amazing to have Christine on. So I'm Stu.
And I'm Chris Henderson.
Yeah, and we're your hosts for this evening. And welcome, Christine.
Hello.
Hello. Apologies for my complete overexcitement there. I completely lost the plot for a second, but you know what? That's fine, right?
That's okay. Going with the flow.
Going with the flow. We were talking just before coming on air, weren't we? We generally don't edit anything out, and all that will stay in, so it's all good. But it's amazing to have you on, Christine. First of all, for those that don't know Christine, I'm going to hand over in a moment for her to do a proper intro because I cannot do Christine justice, and I'm sure she'll have so much energy when in introing herself. I first met Christine in September, I think it was, wasn't it, Christine, at Test Bash in Brighton. Christine was there bringing the energy and talking about her new venture of Epic Test Quest. So we're going to be talking a little bit more about that today, and everything that comes with that. And so Christine, I'm just going to hand it straight over to you to kind of introduce yourself, talk a bit about your background, and we'll get rolling.
Okay, so I'm super happy to be here as well. I think the podcast is in the making, or like we spoke in September and we were always like, yes, we should do. And then like life got away. So I'm super excited to be with the both of you here on the podcast today. Super excited to also talk about Epic Test Quest. When we talk about me, how it all started, I was born and raised in the beautiful Berlin, which is always, I'm very proud to say that because not many people actually meet Berliners, which is always quite fun. And I've been in the tech industry for now, and this year will be interesting, 20 years. I don't badly look like this, but I started very, very early. I never studied, so I went directly for vocational training, worked my way up, and been in the software testing industry, I always say like 17 years, 16 years, something like that. And I basically went to everything. I went I first actually started with testing special hardware. That was fun. Special hardware because I worked in the government, special hardware, special software, migration of Office, I think 2000 something. And then from there, I went to my first startup, which was always fun, system administrator. And then I went my way up to, sometimes I was a team lead. I went for quite a little bit time of being a department head of something, did not so much testing. Then I had my share of trying to change the world and went into politics. That was also interesting. I tested out how can you make politics more also focused on technical things and focused also to building these things in a way for everybody to work and make a better world for everybody. And then I went back to testing and back to tech because it's more honest, I guess, also a little bit. It's more how it's just work. And I wanted to just do my own things, work on the things I want to change. And then last year, with the rise of AI as well, I discovered some of them, and we will go, there's a couple of problems I had encountered for over the years now. And we came up with the idea. I started Epic Test Quest together with my husband because he's the business genius of our endeavor here. And now since September, we are part of an incubator and trying to create Epic Test Quest to make basically team up, test 4 times faster, and make it fun every time. We're still working on our mission statements. That's also a testing thing. And today I'm happy to talk about all of these things, community-led growth, AI, how can we go into this career development, or all my travels around the world, basically.
The politics thing is interesting, I have to say. The fact that you left politics to come back to tech was even more interesting. How did that kind of come about?
Well, we started, so during COVID, we got stuck in the Philippines. So we continued working, but it was just, especially if you are in a developing country and see basically the word for yourself, how humans are destroying the environment, like especially also with flooding. So literally our hotel room got flooded multiple times and everybody told us this never happened before. So we saw how environmental causes are just like getting more and more and more. And when you really see it, you really see it. So we worked with activism group. We learned a lot about activism and how can you do also not just demonstrating, but also, for example, making fun of politicians and also work in different ways around these things. And then it basically, working for NGOs is very difficult because it's also like they have not much money, and also it's still also, how can I solve maybe elite space? So you have to know somebody to get some into this. Is also like how you grow up. Hey, if you know the right connections. So I learned a lot about how have you the right connections to go anywhere. And politics was a little bit the same. We went into politics. I joined a party, and I was from the first time, hey, I want to change something. I want to put my full heart into, and I ran against a lot of walls because people were like, what are you doing here? Why don't you do this? Have you not been here for the last 10 years or something like other people? So that was interesting to figure out that also that politics is a lot about you know who you know, and then you get up. I worked a lot. So I'm not sure if you ever known, like Germany is the country of re-elections and elections. So especially Berlin, we cannot do elections, which is funny because we're electing today also somebody. And the last 4 years, I think we have elections because we screwed up a couple of times. So I did winter election, which is, you learn how, and that's also actually testing things. You test out how can you get the most amount of attention of people on the street. So I learned, I was prepared for being a founder because now I know how to get attention from people on the street and have random conversations, pitch them my idea of a better universe, and see also how they react to this. This was very interesting, but it took a lot of toll. So working in politics, especially if you don't know somebody, if you work from the ground up, and if you're not that well connected, and that was just also the issue. And if you're in a space like Berlin where it's very cutthroat because it's like a lot of power sits here. We have the Berlin government here, we have the EU sitting here, we have the Germany government here. Like it's a lot of cutthroat business, and it was just at some point too much. I saw my issues, my maybe also being too direct. I'm not sure, maybe just also being very technical. I was like, here's the problem. Why are we not solving this? So it's I went back to tech and being testing because I was more happy in that space as well, but also came a lot of also personal reasons as well, just also shortly for burnout, because being on the street, it is also tough. It is tough. The activism life is very, very tough, especially if you not have a good supporting network. And and I have a good one, but it is different. Right? So I think also, in the UK with the politics, also not easy. Politics all around the world are right now not very easy. So, and we just saw a way more about going back into tech, finding a good base there, and then going into entrepreneurship. Hey, I can change the things I want to see change in. And then from there, I also, when I be more connected, then I get also more money. And then from there, I can change more. It's just how it is, because the NGOs need money. But if I'm working for the NGO, I cannot produce my money, just put it into the NGO. So we're going to work our way up, going to be big, going to be huge, make investments, and then also support exactly the causes we always wanted to support. It's just a better way in that as well.
That's an incredible journey, an incredible story. And I've got so many questions, especially like around the politics thing. I was just thinking, because obviously you transitioned, like we hear a lot about people transitioning from one career to another, and you've kind of done it again. So from your experience, like moving into politics and then going from politics back into tech, what would you say was like kind of the biggest learning from that experience that you're actually able to use when you went back into tech? And that could be like something that you might use in your day-to-day job, or something you just kind of found out more about yourself by doing that experience as well.
Well, in politics, I was a professional networker, so I definitely learned that. I skilled my way up how to be immediately having my LinkedIn code ready, know how to bring a conversation really quick. Okay, let's connect, and next time I speak more to get most amount of leads. I also learned how to use events, like choose events. Well, I'm still learning this. Choose events the way that you can also network in a good way, especially, for example, if you want to go up in your career, hey, you also have to find mentors, you have to find advisors, but also you have to find the right companies, hey? Or you have to also see who can I connect with in the space you are at, offline events, online events. So I definitely learned a lot about networking. I think also the second one is communication. Politics is a lot about what one person says and what the other person understands. And in technical, like when you're on tech, you might not see always the consequences of what you're communicating, because again, we are in your product, and maybe then a release hopefully when the release happens and maybe there was just a little issue, I hope it's not, it's still also communication there, but communication in politics, where it's about laws, where it's about also, we work all together, it's volunteer based. These are people who are doing this on their free time to be exposed also not always to nice circumstances. Communication, social skills, like these soft skills are like the biggest thing. I learned so much how to frame things in, how can I say, maybe it's not always easier, but maybe more imagery. Why? Because it's about, you have to inspire people to go by minus 10 degrees on the street to campaign for something you want. So I was also literally, when I go to these things, I was the party maker. I'm trying to also make everybody have fun. So I took that also back then, being in the remote company for the other company I joined, was also like, I tried to make it fun. Hey, I tried to have fun when you work this, because it can also be challenging there. Hey, you have a release coming up, things go wrong. Okay, now we have to have a laugh. For example, before I went onto the podcast, there's currently, and you don't need to listen to it, but there's currently a very funny song. It's called, and it's a German song, Wackelkontakt. So basically a contact between two electrodes when they're not, like when they freeze a little bit. And it's about, it's a techno song mixed with Skihütten song. I'm not sure if you ever heard this, like a good, easy drinking song, but also like, tuts, tuts, tuts. So I just listened to that to make myself happy and fun of this. The same when I used to, and I will now use this, when I used to go on stages, I hear before always Taylor Swift, Shake It Off. Because I try to make it fun and have, and like you, I'm not sure, Stu, if you saw me on Test Batch, when I went onto the stage, I'm trying to have a fun environment, because again, what I'm saying is not anything new. I didn't do like nuclear science or anything. I just share my story, like what I do here, but I'm trying to at least make it entertainment. And I learned this when I went on the street. You have to make it entertaining for the people you work with, as well as for the people you talk to. And I try to, as much as possible, bring this into the things I'm doing. And my husband is very, very good in it, because he used to always do this. He was a volunteer manager for such a long time. He always tried to have everybody make fun. And I took that along when going into politics, which is a lot of volunteering work, because you work with people who choose to be with you, right?
I think that's really interesting, Tate. And like you mentioned there about communication, I think that's an aspect that's kind of always overlooked, especially in the tech industry, and we don't do it well enough with each other. And like focusing back on those kind of social skills and how do we engage with each other as human beings. And like to your point before, you said like visuals and stuff and making it fun. There's so many different ways that we can get like a single message across, but if you know all of these different techniques and you combine them all into one approach, that's how you capture the interest of the audience and keep them engaged as well. So I think that's a really like good take on your experience and stuff. And I think for like our listeners, that's something that we should all think about like in our day-to-days, is to look at how we communicate with individuals as well, and see what kind of things we could do differently, and just be more self-aware of body language and like how we talk, whether we got different levels within our communication as well. But yeah, all very good. I was going to ask, because obviously earlier on you mentioned about your company, Epic Test Quest, and I just wanted to dive a little bit more into that, because for our viewers, I think it's important to obviously tell them a little bit more about the company, but also what made you start the company. Like looking at our industry, what gap did you and your husband see? And what solution did you think that would potentially solve the issue that we've got in the industry?
Yeah, that is exactly. It's a good question. It actually points on the point. It's what I saw and what I experienced quite often is that testers, especially if it's just one tester in like companies and startups, and I work a lot of in scale-ups and startups, we work like in silos. And then testing can become, and it's just how it is, it can become very repetitive. It makes other non-testers think that your work is actually not so important, and it's maybe also boring. And it can also feel like sometimes mind-numbing. And the plus is also there, like the tools which are out there right now are also not that easy as well. So they are also it feels quite repetitive, quite boring, quite administrative. So the problem I encountered, and I can bring you back there. I worked with so I was doing a lot of programming, and I worked with a very, very brilliant mind together. And she was doing a lot of the test strategies. She was doing most of the times also the operational. So when the features were finished developing, she was testing them while I was writing the code for the UI test around this. And she got sick. Now, I had to do now both sides of the work. So the full on from the beginning, a new feature came in, to also then when the feature is finished to be tested. And my issue was a little bit also that I was not, I was very new in the company, but also in the industry. So it was a cryptocurrency, and I'd never been in cryptocurrency before, but I was very good in selling myself. And I still believe I sold, and also what I sold correctly, because in the end, when you write unit tests, or like also UI tests, it doesn't matter if I write them for an e-commerce shop or if I write them for a cryptocurrency wallet. In the end, I'm following a user flow. It doesn't matter which one. Yes, if I know more about the cryptocurrency as well, then I can do also the operational testing better. And that was my key problem. I had to test it, and I was very bad because we didn't have written test cases. We didn't have written test documentation. All of this knowledge was in her. So when she was sick, and I asked the other developers, and it's like, yeah, we never do this. It's like, okay, we have like the biggest release coming up for this new, I forgot what it was, something cryptocurrency, something. And I like, the product owner's asking me, yeah, are we ready? It's like, I have no idea, because I see here your requirements, which are like this short. I'm trying to write test cases, and I don't know what to test because I know the user. So, and then I thought to myself, okay, we have so many AI tools. Let's see, maybe like, especially in that case, the application was public. So the flows which are there, I took screenshots, I put them into ChatGPTs, I wrote a little bit, and what did I get out? 10 beautiful test cases, and 8 of them are the same. I was like, oh my God. So this just caught me more work than before. Then I can also just sit down and write them all down. Because in the end, what was happening, and I knew this is what's happening because I saw that in other releases before, that it was very, very close for the marketing date. Okay, tomorrow we're releasing this, today's releasing. And instead of that just I test, it's the whole development team would test. So all of the developers would test. Again, if you have everybody testing something and nobody writes down what they have to test, you have to write down test cases down. So I set myself there. It took me a week to write down beautiful test cases, but it just took so long. And then also the communication and the reporting. Like we worked with GitHub, and it was so much that afterwards I say, okay, we need a test management tool. Then I went into all these comparisons, did not work out. I felt like, again, I'm so siloed. I'm like, it's all terrible, like, and I don't say that these tools are not good. They do but they are written by business people. Hey, it takes me, I have to first create a project. Then I have to create a feature. Then I have no idea how many clicks I have to do until I finally can say, this is the test case. So I sat there and I was like, and my husband was hearing this. Oh my God, this is so terrible. Why is AI? We were talking in the evening, like, why is AI not helping you? Like, you know all these things, and like the knowledge of what you do in the crypto space is not like, again, we're not reinventing the wheel. Eh? It's just a new feature. And I'm not saying that the company is not, they do awesome stuff because they do a lot of user friendliness, but flow wise, it's not anything new. You log in, you register, you give money. So then we spoke about more and more, and he's like, is there maybe something we can do? And I was like, I think there could be something. And we were always talking about, we want to go the entrepreneurship because we've both been employees for a long time. And we always, like, one of the major reasons, I think, also why I always switch companies after like 1.5, 2 years. So I've been to, 8, 9 companies, now 10, I don't even know, is because I also get quite annoyed by my uppers, because I'm getting invested in the product and I cannot, stop talking about what we should change, especially in quality mindsets. Hey, I think everybody's like, why are you doing this? We have to invest more into quality. Why am I the one? And I got very annoyed at some point also, like, hey, like, you're not investing more into me. You might not paying me well. You're not giving me the tools I need. And then I switch companies because why should I continue here if other companies are there? So there was always like, okay. And when I was department head, it was because it was super interesting, but it wasn't the same as like having your own company. So what we did, and that was, I think, very, very important. A lot of people start their own products and just like, oh, because you have your own itch, you scratch it and just do it. We, from the first day on, did interviews. So I had an interview with Simon from the Ministry of Testing Community, also AJ, and a couple of other ones to like, here, this is my idea. Do you have the same problem? And they all said, I think we did 10 interviews, and they all did the same, said, yes, we have the problem as well. We might need to solve it differently, hey, because also every company is different with also AI tools and all the things. And then it was clear, not just me, not just I have the problem, a lot of people have the problem. So then we sat there, and again, I was full-time working, so part-time founder. So on each weekend, we sat together, worked from Saturday morning until Sunday night on like what kind of features can we do, what kind of business plan can we do, what could be the price model, and all these things, basically testing out, validating. The big difference to what I might have done years before, we would have maybe started bootstrapping, but we both said, this is not the way we imagine this, because we tried something years back. Actually, when Corona hit, before Corona, why we chose the Philippines is we wanted to live a cheaper life, to start a company around international volunteer management. Well, COVID hit and there was no international volunteering anymore. So that did not work out. But leading up to this, it's like we had a lot of ideas. We wanted to figure out a lot, but we also saw our shortcomings in just experience. Right? You can read so much in startup books. You can read, but the experience is just missing. Hey? You can fail and fail. And so we heard about these incubators, which are here. It's quite a lot of all over the world. We have incubators and accelerators. And on the one hand, they give you money, which is like, it's a nice feeling to be paid doing this full time versus before half-time. But on the other hand, they give you also workshops and experience and expert coaching. And it's just access to people which you can ask, hey, you tried out this pricing model. Why did it not work for you? So we started then applying in May, June, July for incubators. And then in September, we got into an incubator. So it was August, I think, was the last month I worked. And then since September, I'm full-time founder, which is super interesting, but also super scary. But I have to say, and for everybody, it's the best thing I ever did in my life. Every day is new. And it's like, and I'm pretty sure with all your side projects, you also know, at least before in May, where it's like the weekend was super exciting, super passionate. On Monday morning, I was exhausted. B, the motivation to go back to my normal job was like, difficult. I'm glad I had a very awesome team. So I was definitely motivated too, but it's just, hey, the energy at some point, even it's like, yeah, but at some point it's like you work then 8 hours for here and then you go like to the events and then you do this. It's just, it was a lot. So I'm very grateful that I'm until end of June still in this incubator, because I learn a lot. I get paid to try out my dream, but also I get paid to talk to you. You cannot imagine with how many testers I'm communicating now. At least every week I had at least one interview. I always try to have 3 to 4, but this week was very challenging. But I also go to this week in testing. So the Ministry of Testing sound thing on Friday to chat with people. And I never in my life, and I worked with a lot of testers before, not always in my team, but also with Ministry of Testing. I think over 7 years, I think I'm a member already. But I never in my life felt so connected with this community. And I'm so grateful to also, like I said, do this, creating this tool with the community, because and for the community, I don't have the feeling when anybody uses this and it's like, oh man, I have to click here, or it's like, yeah, I gave that feedback that there should be a knowledge database. I gave that feedback. People find themselves in this tool. It's like, oh, that's a template. That's smart. Like all of these things. I have like currently a feature database already from so many ideas, which we cannot immediately tackle. But that through the short story, how I got my problem and the solution, but also to that, we're still working on the solution. So it's still, we are prototyping right now, because I don't want to just go head on, spend 5-6 months into creating something and then produce something which nobody wants. So it's still prototyping, short cycles, talk again to 12 people, get feedback, and then work again. We want to do at least 2 or 3 more cycles. Everybody who wants to be part of this, sign up for our waiting list on epictestquest.com or hook me up on LinkedIn, because we always look for new people to talk to as well, but also the people who already talked to us. Anybody who listens today, I'm very grateful that you spent so many hours with me already, showing me how it's so fascinating. I've been with people I seen online for many, many years, and then I have the chat. I was like, oh, that's so fascinating. I see now how you work. I learn so much about anybody, because everybody shares with me also what is their workflow right now. They share their ideas, and it's so fascinating. And I think you have the same way. Eh? You talk to so many people. It's so fascinating.
Yeah, and I think it's part of the essence of what we do in the quality space, right? We talked earlier about communication. and we need to be better at communication. Well, from a quality and testing perspective, it's in our DNA to communicate and talk and ask questions and all that kind of stuff, which is, and what I love, Christine, and this is what I loved about meeting you in September, is just your passion for what you do is just insane. I like to think that I'm passionate and I have energy, but oh my God, girl, you're off the chart compared to me. And it's like, I love it. I absolutely love it. Anything that you're talking about, links, anything like that, we'll put them in the show notes as well, so that people can hook in directly, including the song you mentioned earlier. Because I want to. I want to
check that one out.
It's currently I think #1 in the charts here, because it's always, I don't know if you have that in the UK as well. When my husband first came into the German space, he experienced, it's called Skihütten song. So it's something you normally hear when you after go skiing to like these huts, and basically it's simple, but it's like it goes into your mind, and it's happy. You're happy, and you can, even if you have like 5 beer, you can still sing with it because it's very funny.
This sounds like a perfect opportunity to change my alarm clock. My wife hates the alarm clock I've currently got, and maybe this is the new tune that I'm going to replace it with.
Yeah, she'll probably still hate it, Chris. She'll probably still hate it. Christine, I just wanted to tap into something we were just talking about off air, really, before we came on, but the whole quality mindset, and obviously starting a company. Often tech leaders often in big organizations, when cuts need to happen, guess what? Who's on the first on the chopping block? Us lot, right? Yeah. For one reason or another. How does it help you starting your own company, already having that quality mindset? And kind of like what you're just saying there a little bit, like you don't want to put out rubbish, right? You want to, how do you find that balance to be like, so it's not, you're not trying to reach perfection. You're trying to balance things so that you're getting feedback regularly and stuff like that. I'm really interested to know how that sort of plays within your world now.
That is super difficult. It's so hard because I had to really step back in the quality mindset a little bit for the prototyping, because I had to learn I cannot be 100% good. I cannot be 100% perfect in high quality, because it's a prototype. Because the main goal is, because what I learned with the prototype is visual things are just transporting the idea more than all the things I had. All the interviews I had in June, in September, October, November were always good. But now the ones I had with the last prototype were like quality-wise even higher, because people finally understood what I wanted to create, because they had, even if it wasn't pretty, right? It looked like it was, I used a component library, so everything was like standard, but it's okay. It was standard, it didn't look pretty, but it worked. But it was slow, for example. But then it was hard. It's still hard. But I have to say, when it comes onto the quality mindset, what I will always bring in, that quality is a team responsibility. It will be one of the most important thing, but quality also from the user perspective. I want to bring something in which has quality also for the user, and and that will be still interesting. We have to find the balance between quality and a maybe 80% there feature versus 100%, but at least it's out and I can get that early feedback, because I strongly believe, and the best tools are like this, where it's community led. When we look at, like, for example, Midjourney started on a Discord server. That wasn't pretty, but everybody could give their feedback. And that's how we're going to do this as well. And we're going to leverage something like Slack, Discord to bring out the first idea, because the core is not, like, the packaging will be important in the future. But for me, it's about the core. And when it comes down also to building my team, all my developers will hear me always, did you write your unit test? Did you have, when we start already about the features, we're going to think about the requirements. We're going to think about, okay, how can we test this? Because I will always tell them, the people who will use this after us are testers. That's their mission, to find bugs. And it's also, we're going to maybe also give badges out for people who found bugs or something, because it's also, like, for me, it's so important to, I don't want to, how can I, like you said it already, when it comes down to cutting budgets, for some reason, not for some reason, I know the reasons. The reason is always the QA is being cut first, because we might not speak up always. We have communication issues. And also, as long as everything goes well, they think we are not needed. The moment things hit the fan, Then, oh God, what's QA? Where can I do it? Can we figure it out? Can we have a test ready? Like, for example, risk storming, hey? Like, I had a long conversation also with Baron, who did the risk storming deck together with Ministry of Testing. It's so many times people forget. And I asked him, like, how do the companies work when you go there? And it's like, yeah, they all know it's important, but they just don't take the time. And when they're actually doing this workshop, they finally see how important this is. So coming back, what also we want to do with Epic Test Quest is that we want to help bridging this communication gap as well, because we want to make it collaborative. I want, like, through the gamification, for example, I want that the developers knocks actually at the digital door to the tester and say, hey, can I do the test run today? Because it's so much engaging and fun. Or maybe we want to do risk storming also as a team collaboration. So we want everybody participating in that through, and we are still like figuring out chat-wise, maybe in a group chat facilitated by an AI, something that it's always clear the AI is just there as a helper. It's not there to think for you. It's just helper, for example, writing these things down. Hey, when I think about a cryptocurrency wallet, there are typical risks which are there. I don't need to write them down. It's industry knowledge. And I don't, like, the AI can write that down and then you can just agree to this or not. I still want you to critically think about it. But also sometimes when I had my MVP test, it was about accessibility. The test case just was created, looked at the label which we see in the Chrome tab. And the one I talked about, she also said, yeah, I actually never tested that often. It's actually good because it's very important also for the screen reader to read that out. We want to help people who freshly come into this profession, which is like, I still believe, don't become developer. A software tester is like the best profession in the world. I always say to everybody, become a software tester because it's the best, because you get everything. You get product knowledge. You get, if you want, you can code, but you don't need to. You can be a detective every day. You can figure, and you have so many ways. You can go into performance, accessibility, localization. Like, the world is your oyster. You just have to figure out what you like. And I always like to be the the translator. Hey, I love to have this conversation between the developers and the product owners because I could understand both very, very much. So I always bridge that gap very well. And and that's also what I did for the last couple of years. I educated CEOs. Educating CEOs is very much fun because it is basically to tell them, maybe you shouldn't hire 5 more developers. Maybe 1 or 2 QAs would also be good, because at some point, if you have 10, 12 developers, it's not getting faster. It's not going to help. You need this quality mindset. And that is something which will always go from top, because I will be on the top, go down to the lowest part. It's also like, I believe still we want to hire QAs also in positions they never hired before. For me, sales as well as customer support will be at least 1 QA or even more, because I believe who can sell the best quality to a customer than the people who believe strongly into quality. And I cannot teach them these experience. I cannot teach them this like mindset that quality starts. What I can teach them are the skills how to be a sales. Right? It's not about, again, there's also difference between an awesome sales set and your communication skills, but these like passion for our product, this fun in our company, and then also this like, when a customer comes back, it's like, yeah, now we have 100% automation. Why do I need test cases? It's like, have you think about that and that? Hey? Or like, have you thought about maybe Microsoft in 2024? I'm pretty sure they thought about automation, and then still half of the world shut down. Right? So it's a lot. How can we help leaders? It's in the end, the problem is, how do you quantify risks into business impact? And I will always do this because I am up from here. I will always try to also make it the other way around, help business impact to be quantified in risks. How can we make that less risky? But also through the tool, we want to have, especially in the report section. So we want to put a lot of effort in the report section, that there will be reports to help you show that. Right? Because right now what we get is always how many tests are running, how many are failed, and what is normally, I forgot, what is the other? You get these numbers and then you give it to your PO and it's like, okay, so you spent 10 hours testing and we had 1 failure. What does it mean? You have no, and then you sit there and it's like, yeah, but it was a lot of work. And there's like, but this is just ours. So we also really want to try to enrich these test reports through AI again. We collect all the test cases you did. We collect also a little bit more information about the release, and try then also bring summaries, like executive summaries, to then try to help you quantify the risk you just were able to mitigate. Mitigate, that's the word. Right? So these are all the beautiful features we also try to figure out in which order they come and how they come. I have no idea, because we want to make that also via the community as well. So we'll be very much also aligned what the community wants first and what can be produced first. We are still only 2 people. We're looking out right now also to expand our team. I don't know how yet. I also new in this and hiring. I was interviewing for companies, but I never hired myself. So it's also a new experience as well, and figuring that out.
I love that bit you mentioned, obviously, about leveraging community. Because a lot of the time, like the products that are out there that we use at the minute, it's something that's been developed by another business and then just put out there. And that's their interpretation of what the industry needs. And time again, we keep saying it. It's either something that's already been produced and it's just replicated again slightly differently, but it never actually solves the problems that we need. And I think that's a really important thing, is just appreciating like that business model that you've got. You'll leverage other people and their experiences and the challenge that they face, and almost like you're talking there about employing people into your company, but they're already employed, they're invested in your journey. And because you're opening the doors and allowing them to communicate and help you to build something that's going to potentially benefit so many people, like that's such an amazing thing to do, and it's so impactful. Like I think it's just an amazing thing that's probably been overlooked for so long in our industry, and it's great that you're able to take people on that journey as well.
Chris, just on that, sorry, Chris. I'm going to put this out here, Christine, because right, anybody that's listening to this right now who's got a product they're trying to sell, right? Don't just directly go to them on LinkedIn and tell them you've got the product that's going to solve all their problems when you haven't even spoken to me. Yeah. Right? Just stop. Right? Listen to what Christine's saying. Okay? There's a huge community out there that you can tap into and learn from. Right? Don't drop into my DMs. A, that's rude. Right, and B, just do a little bit of thinking before. And as I say, Christine, I think how you're approaching that, for Chris's point, is it's completely different to how a lot of organizations work, right? And you've got a great community around you with Ministry of Testing as an example, so you've got a lot of that at your fingertips. But other people could too. In my opinion, it's just laziness. Right.
Yeah.
Controversial statement, maybe, but having had all these people drop into my LinkedIn messages saying I've got the perfect product for you, I'm going to call it out. You're lazy, right? So take a leaf out of Christine's book, listen to what's being said, right? And learn from that. And also the other thing I just want to talk about sales and being good at sales. What do we have to do in our roles every single day? We have to sell. Right? We have to sell the fact that there might be a risk here. We have to sell the fact that this isn't the right quality of what needs to go out the door. We've already got it in us to sell things. But again, to your point, it's how you position it and how you frame it for people, right? Quality isn't a metric, it's a mindset.
Exactly.
And just listening to you talk all through that, it was just like, it's an inspiring approach that you and your husband are taking to try and bring others on that journey and hook people in. And if you can do that at the senior leadership level as well, that would be amazing.
And that is the goal, hey? And I think it's not just selling that it's in our mind and that's important. It's also selling that it's not boring. Right? It's also like seeing. And I have to say, like, we did a Ministry of Testing meetup in Berlin all around games. And the games were also like figuring out like accessibility testing and risk storming and all these things. And it is a fun activity. Hey, It's like and I was so glad one of our cohort member in the incubator is a developer, and he joined us, and he was sometimes a little bit left by, but sometimes also with like, the mindset of a developer is also very, very like straightforward and very rational. Yeah. And it can be fun. So it's like on the one side selling the mindset of quality, but on the other side also making this whole thing, and I cannot say this over and over again. it's a team. Hey, I want people to collaborate together, learn from each other, and have fun. Like for me, if I in 2 years, or like say in 10 years, people come back to me and say, hey, your tool enabled me to speak to my developers for the first time, and actually we had fun figuring this out, or we had fun testing it. Hey, like, can you imagine when the developer comes to you and said, I had fun testing this, and not just like, oh, testing again? Like these like typical, when I say, like, especially if we have a day before release and we have to now all chip into testing because you know, hey, there's always a lot of issues can be related why this is happening. It shouldn't, but it is. And then you see in the faces in the stand-ups like, so now everybody has to test. Right? Yeah, you see that, and it's like, this is not what I want. I want that the communication is changing around testing. It's not a bottleneck. It's not boring. It's not siloed. No, this is something. It's a responsibility, quality for everybody, and the one who has the hat basically on literally to coach this will be the one to also should be enabled to the tools to make this fun, collaborative, and knowledge, like something where we can all, because in the end, the biggest thing we all work on the product is to bring something of high value, high quality to our customers, because otherwise nobody's going to use this, and then the product is not going to sell, the company doesn't get revenue, and I get fired because the company. And so it's in the end, and that's the communication which I'm missing here. Hey? It's like, I'm there, I want to help my team, then the team's going to get better, then the CEO would understand it, so he invests more, maybe in more tools, maybe in also like certifications. Hey, we have so many certifications also, or not just also conferences. There's so many also conferences, but because testing conferences are also still, I don't want to call it a rarity, but still a special niche. So the cost of the tickets are also, that's why a little bit more expensive, because you don't find always the big sponsors. Hey, you don't find the people who like throw their money in because they want to have their big, you always have the same people there, which is, and I'm glad that these partners are there, but it's still, that's why the tickets are also, if you maybe, you need the companies to sponsor you to go there as well. So they have to understand this business need as well. But yeah, fun. I also want fun in these things. But I also like everybody has fun in the podcast as well. Hey, and hopefully all the listeners as well.
I think along the lines of fun as well, just while you were talking there, Christine, I had some thoughts pop in my head, so I'm just going to spit them out.
Oh, God.
While we're here we go. But I see it as like Epic Test Quest is the story, and you and your husband are the authors of this story, and every single person from the community who supports Epic Test Quest and gets behind it and contributes in one way or another become a character in that story, and you write their journey, and whether it's a conference or they support directly, or whether they become one of your employees, that's their journey, and that's how they support the overall narrative and story of Epic Test Quest for the future.
Oh man, Chris, I'm gonna steal that. That sounds awesome.
Go for it, it's yours.
That's patent pending. Yes, that sounds awesome, because we also try to do this. Like when you work, also like you learn when you become a business owner, and also like you learn about pitching and elevator pitches and all these other things, which are sometimes very boring. So we also try to gamify that a little bit. And basically, one of our pitches is actually a epic story about a country which got infiltrated by bugs. And we have the heroes, which are the testers. And then how can we empower them as a shield, as they are our, and these things, hey? Because, and I love that, making them a character. I'm going to take that. I'm going to write that down. That's good.
Yeah, that's very good, Chris. I'm impressed.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'm very impressed. Yeah. You can definitely have that, Christine. I mean, I didn't say it, so you can definitely have it. I'm not. But one thing that I will say, just coming back onto the gamification side of things, being able to sell the concept of investing more in quality into organization generally, I very much approach it in that way of how do I make it fun, how do I make it engaging, how do I make it gamified in some way, because it's really difficult to get people to buy in, like you say, that we're going to need to invest in people, or whether that be more people to do the roles, sending them to conferences, learning and development, any of those things. And gamification for me is such a great way to do that. And it's amazing that sort of people initially be like, oh God, you want to play a game, do you? And then all of a sudden people just start getting into it. And we were talking before we came on about the Ministry of Testing Coventry workshop that I did a couple of weeks ago, and I took Lego, and I did a whole workshop around what is quality using Lego, and never done it before. Had the idea for a long time, thought about how I could do it, and I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to do it and see how it. And it was incredible just to see how people and the energy people get into, and like it drove such great conversation and just great ideas, just like flowing. And I said to everybody, like, imagine doing this now with your senior leadership in your organization when you're trying to get them to invest more in quality and, you know, everything that surrounds it. So the more we can gamify things and the more we can make things fun, you know, I feel that it will help us evolve more and more and more. Technology itself can be quite dry when people talk about it, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be. It really doesn't. And you know, the passion that you're showing, and hopefully the passion that we show on this podcast as an example, you know, are just ways that in which we can change people's kind of perception and thinking around the world that we're in. So yeah, all for gamification. So if you can figure out how we build Lego into Epic Test Quest as well, virtually, that would be insane.
Yeah, I would love to. So how did you come up with the idea to use Lego? Like, because you used it as a transportation for continuous quality, wasn't it?
So I used it. So basically, I used it as a metaphor to help people come to an understanding themselves about what quality means to them. So we talked about sort of quality and it being subjective, and we touched on examples around if you buy a mobile phone, how many people in the room have got an Apple, an iPhone? How many have got an Android phone? How many have bought the phone for the amazing camera it has, or of all these different reasons? Funnily enough, very few people actually buy a phone because of the call clarity that you can make calls on a phone.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
I mean, who knew? So just start talking and start getting people to think, okay, so you bought the same phone as me for a completely different reason. Okay, so all right, and then bringing the Lego in was then asking people to not only think about how they describe or how they would describe quality for themselves, but how do they visualize it? How do they bring it to life in a visual form for people? I'm a visual person.
Yeah.
Right. So you talking to me about something is amazing. If you show me something, I'm in. I'm like, my mind's blown. So that's very much about what it was, and the different things that people, you know, no one person built the same thing.
No.
And I put it because we had 4 tables of 8 people, and I basically said to them, you can work as a team. You can decide what your team definition of quality is and build that, or you can do it as an individual. It's entirely up to you.
Okay.
So a couple of the tables were like, oh yeah, we'll try and do it as a team. That quickly fell by the wayside because they realized they all had a different definition.
Yeah.
So it's really difficult to then build something in, you know, so everybody ended up building something individually, but then they're sort of like the ideas that were coming out were, as I said to everybody, like, these all you throw into a bucket. Holistically, this is what quality looks like. So there's stuff about foundational, like the foundations being strong, the correctness of something, the strength of something, all these, how it makes you feel. And it was very much about how does it make you feel. Right, I just bought a new phone. I haven't, but I've just bought a new phone, and the camera on it's amazing, and I can take these amazing pictures of my family and friends, and it makes me feel amazing. It's like, great, that's really important to you. That's value add, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if I bought a phone that the camera was pretty naff, but I didn't need to use the camera, then that's also okay with me.
Yeah.
So it's just trying to get people to realize, like, just because. And it's from your perspective with your product, and this is why I love the approach you're taking in terms of connecting in with the community and trying to understand what's valuable to people. that then gives you an all-rounded product that delivers value, and i.e. it's quality to those people. So that's how I use that as a way to kind of just drive people thinking, people feeling differently. And you can do it with pictures. I've done it with printing out different pictures of different houses. A real mixture of different houses. So like the really big mansion, and then the little wooden shack that's in Africa. Which of these houses do you think is the best quality?
Yeah. Oh, that's smart.
Right.
Yeah.
And they'll start going in, and often people will go, oh well, this one looks grand. I would say that one's the highest quality. And I said, well, what if you realised that the foundations of that building were only 2 bricks high? So think about, just because it looks pretty doesn't mean it's been built well. Think about our code. Right? If our code is not in the best shape, it may look pretty on the outside, but oh my days, it's so hard to maintain, and it's like and test, and you can't. And the bugs that we find, you are never going to know about them because it's pretty here, not so much. So so using that sort of thing as well is a really great way.
That's super smart, because that's what I always feel like. You just need a vehicle to start the conversation. Hey? So that's also what we look into. What kind of vehicle? And that's why the AI is basically a fancy little vehicle, but it's like the AI as a chatbot, as a moderator, can help bridge that gap as a vehicle to then have a group conversation about risks. Right? So important, so often forgotten, because also the person who has it most interested is the QA sometimes, and I completely feel that it's sometimes also difficult to always be the one. Hey, always in the conversation. Have you thought about testing? Have you thought about this risk? It's also, it can work on you that at some point you also get numb to it as well. Right? That happened in me to some teams as well. I try to overcome this because it is just that is my. It's always so fun because people never believe that. Hey, it's really I was born to be a tester because I'm breaking things. It's just I'm not breaking them by intention. It's not even like, it's just my natural. Like, I'm seeing something and I just like, oh, let's see if it double clicks, or like it's like I break things which are not supposed to be broken. Yeah, from TVs like to hardware things to like things in my childhood to things like right now being a startup entrepreneur. You also try out a lot of new applications. I literally broke all of it. And not like, I don't want to say breaking, but I reached an error message somewhere. I did something which wasn't supposed to be done. So it's and having that somehow that vehicle, and I find Lego is so good, and it's used by a lot of companies because it comes back to that like childhood. Hey, everybody grows up with Lego. Everybody knows what Lego is. The Lego movies. Hey, everybody is awesome. It's something which is also ingrained into us, or like what you have behind you, Pac-Man. We think about a lot. How can we have like Pac-Man situation with ghosts, or with something like we're thinking about how can we maybe with our test step fight a dragon or something like this, something what you also can change, and to just make it fun for yourself. Because also if you look at Gen Z, hey, it's like I see my nephew doing something here on the half of the screen, and on the other half is something else, because you need to be engaged. Hey, the focus is like in 5 seconds over. To also like what you said, using, and I love the visualization with the houses. I have to try that out. Using visualization to start a conversation. Like, and I want to so much try to have team collaboration in some kind of way. And I like when we have to figure out how we can do this in a game way, but not that people says, oh, are you just gaming? No, it's like, I want to join your game. I want to learn more. I was seeing this as something positive, because the world is getting also more and more rough. Hey, having fun, learning also. Hey, we see on Duolingo is the perfect example. More and more people now learn languages because Duolingo has the gamification in it with these game leadership boards. But I want to do more than this. I don't want to just think about how can I compete against somebody else. No, how can I achieve something with my team members to maybe, I don't know, equip my robot in a more cooler, fancier way. Maybe have a different credit available for me or something. I have no idea.
I think like just what you've both mentioned there, I wrote some things down as well previously, but you've like touched on gamification, making things fun, like, and engaging, and we touched previously on characters and stuff as well. And I was thinking like we use these types of tools as well to kind of create a different sense of reality and to get like stronger engagement from the audience that we're trying to connect with. And we use these to like give other people a superpower in that moment to pull the walls down and just go back to, because you mentioned there, Christine, about like our default behaviors. Sometimes we need to take a different stance and introduce a visual to spark a different type of conversation, or we need to play a different character or a different role in the situation. So we just strip ourselves back to our raw emotions, and that's where real innovation and collaboration and connection happens. So it's great that you are both thinking about how can we better utilize different things. To going back to what we said at the start of the podcast, how part of communication is leveraging different things to build up that story and that narrative. And it's good that you aren't just thinking about talking to an audience, but using these different techniques to really engage people as well. So
but it's also getting somebody on the emotional level as well. Hey, I'm playing again Pac-Man. Anywhere in the world, I'm seeing it immediately draws me to it, and I want a game. Play it. Hey, is these emotional boundings we also like? That's why we're working with a community. Hey, I want something where people feel like, not just feel. I want people to contribute to this. This is like and some people sometimes think I'm just like making this up, but it's not. That's why I'm interviewing so many, and I don't even see. I always call it interview. I have to say I have just a lot of fun in these conversations, like in a podcast conversation, and I'm so grateful that, like, to come up to further, I come randomly into DMs, a lot of people, but I never say I want to sell you anything. Never. I'm always just starting a conversation, and we all share the same roles. So I'm trying to start this in this kind of way, or people I met, or the pain points. I'm trying to start the conversation. So if you ever have a DM from me, be open. I don't want to sell you anything. I really mean it, because I just want to learn your process. I want to learn what is your pain point. Is it similar to the pain points I already had? And the approach, the solution we think, and we now tested with other people, is that something for you? Or maybe do you have something other thing, which I never thought about that? I don't know. Always 5 approval steps, which we have to figure out how to make them more smoothly or something. And it's just this buy-in, and just this being. When you contribute to something, you're also going to be emotionally attached to it. And then you also want to help me getting more, which is then also benefit me, because you will give me more feedback. I will get hopefully, I will get better. Then you give me more feedback. I will get better. And then I help you to be better in your job, because you have something which you love. And I have something which you can then sell to your head to then buy the team license. Because the goal is, and that's also what we spoke about earlier, that we really, really want to make it free for all individual testers, because I believe access to a tool should not be I don't want for single, especially when we look at open source. I don't want the open source projects to pay anything, because this is something, and I don't want the individual tester to pay anything, because when we see, and I interviewed people, when I interview people, I always ask, like, can you, when it's for like test management stuff, can you create test cases? Can you create test management? And they say me, oh yeah, I'm using in my work this and this tool, but you know, I cannot share this with you, and there is no private license. And then it's like, it's so sad, because so many brilliant minds are out there, are currently without work. They're trying to show their work, but most of the time you send an NDA, or like, how do you want to show your, like, there are head of QAs who did test strategies or created things I never seen in my life, or like found ways to quantify risks and ways, and then it's all in these tools you can't share. Or like, even if you try to do it for an open source tools can also not buy these software. So I always think people don't believe me, but I hope I show with my passion, really, I want to create something which lifts up all of us as testers, as the QA scene, because I believe we've been too long overlooked. I want to create something where we can show all parts of the work. Hey, when I create a UI test, I can show off my work. Okay, I can have a GitHub profile, something nice. But there are so many people, and I always say, you don't need to code. Like, your critical mind now, especially with all this code now created by AI, your critical mind, the stuff you are able to communicate in test cases, the simplicity or the test strategy or the executive summaries, this is something, and I can tell you, I tried out so many AI tools, and every day I'm using now at the same time DeepSeek, ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude at the same time, because they all have their problems and are not smart enough to help me at all. And I use all of them are trained on a little bit different, so I can figure out something what I'm doing. And it's just, I really want to create something. And I don't want to point myself as a savior. I'm not saving anybody. I just want to have something that people don't feel like I cannot show off my work, right? Because I always, when I look for, when I was looking for new jobs, I always try to figure out, okay, how can I show this company how awesome I am? How can I do this? So what I did, I create a GitHub repository and I write some UI tests. But then I'm more than this, right? I'm more than this, what I'm actually very good. I write awesome technical documentations because I love to write that down. Hey? I'm clearly not as good in test cases. So now this has to be something I learn now also better. But there are so many people who are so great in exactly also when it comes to compliance thing. And this tool, if it's for free for everybody, free for open source, you can also have that bridging gap for like the open source community, which just has some community issues here. Having the problem to connect to all these people who want to show their work, they can show their work off better. And then also me as a single tester. I'm looking for a new career. I take just random XYZ project in the world. There are a lot of testing software out there. And then I show, how would I test this? What test plan would I set? What risk analysis would I have? Because in the end, what we now also, every employer now is looking, how can you leverage AI? How can you make because it's about work smarter, not harder, hey? How can you show this? Hey, right now, how can you? It's like all of these tools have, I think, 2 weeks a trial period or something, and then I have to, I don't want that. So, but my goal is, that's why I need a lot of people to help me make this tool awesome. And then we grow and we we will find then companies who also understand. Like, we really want to also use our community as champions. We want to support you. And I really mean that. My goal is really to talk to people and figure out, okay, what is your specific case in your company and how can I help you be the champion of quality with our tools to champion that up to the CEO. Right?
And
I
it sounds
got a little
like
bit off stage, but I hope it was. Okay.
And it sounds like that the tool is almost like the language in our industry we never knew that we needed, because we've got all of this information, but we just, to your point, we just don't have a way to articulate what we're really trying to say to the business stakeholders and everybody else around us, which is a real shame. And it's amazing we've got to this point without something like that. But I think you and your husband are on a really great journey, and I'm fully behind what you're doing, and I think it can make a real difference to the industry. And you mentioned stuff like about AI and things, and the problem that we've got out there is AI is using bad information, and that's why it's bad. So you're trying to solve a problem to make us better at communicating and make our information more clear out in the industry, and that supports our future in a digital age where AI is so prevalent, So it's really good that you're focusing in on like the foundations of what success will look like in the next 5 to 10 years,
Yeah, and especially when you say also, because I didn't mention that yet. So one of our value proposition, and I have to always talk this business slang here, is also, we also want to train, or we also have to, I'm not always sure because I'm not an AI, I become an AI expert, let's say that way, fine tune, train, whatever all of these beautiful languages are, is we want to train the AI on actual test cases. So I've been in Test Bash already talking to so many people saying, if you want to be part of this, because the thing is also, all of these AI tools, and let's be honest, learn from the internet. Now, which tester, which QA, which PO writes his test cases or his test plans out there in the internet? Hey, as I said, all of these tools are not accessible. Open source are there, but you learn only from the UI, your unit tests. But really, and it is just, there's a quality difference in how you write a test case that you're not, like what I said, I had 10 test cases from ChatGPT and A were doing the same. This does not help me, because then in the end, whoever did it, which because maybe not me, somebody else tested, spent useless time on this. So we also want to fine tune our AI with industry experts. So I'm connected to a lot of people already. If you are an industry expert and you want to support us, also connect with us. We want to really leverage that AI in a way that it's not, that's what ChatGPT and Co right now is doing. Says, okay, I think one of the things is always, check your network. And I think I always get that as an answer, which is like, I didn't even tell you I have network problems. Why are you giving me that? Because this is what is written in the internet. There's network issues, there's localization issues, but there's so much more. So we also really, like what you said, AI is trained on bad data. I want to train it on good data. This will be like the biggest thing we have to figure out. This is our vision that we want to do this. If this will be able to be done in our first version, which we will hopefully deploy by May, June, I have no idea, because I still have to figure out how all of these, like that's the world of an entrepreneur. Every day I learn new, and every day I test new things, and I have to figure out, okay, how do I test this and this and this and this, that it in the end works. I programmed before, but I never did software architecture. It's also something I tested software architecture, but figuring out all of these things, testing my way through my product with the community as well as on all levels through is like I said, a fun adventure. But it's also, I can say now in February that we want to do that. I still believe, so this is one of the fundamentals we're definitely going to do. But when it's going to happen, I have no idea. This might be only in version 2 because we might need more feedback. Because like we see now all of these AI models popping up with all these billions of data sets. I don't know if we need that. It's also the question, do you need so much data, or you start by one industry, which was one idea? I have no idea. That's something we figure out.
Yeah, it comes back to the classic, it's not the amount of data, it's the quality of data.
Exactly.
Right. In terms, if you think about how we test, we talk about how much data do we need? Well, it's not about how much, it's about the quality, right? Is it the right data for what we need?
Exactly.
And while you were chatting there, Christine, I did a little chat GPT thing. Right?
Oh, I'm pretty sure that was fun.
Me and Chris are like, we did this in the last episode. We're not the last one, the one before, didn't we, Chris? And I just put in, write me some test cases to test the website.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I mean, yeah. So it's broken it down into functional test cases, UI and UX, performance, security, compatibility, database, sorry. And then it's got homepage load test. Verify that the homepage loads correctly without any errors. Cool. Yeah. Okay. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah. It is. So like I said, for the base, it's very good. Hey, for the base. And it's also like a lot of people ask me, what will be the difference between you and ChatGPT? Well, the difference is that I'm not covering the base. I cover really like not the first 10 test cases you write and the first 10, 20 test cases you can write with ChatGPT. But then it's the problem, hey? Because then it just repeats itself. Then it just stays with the same weird things where you're not going deeper. And that's the issue. Oh, that's one of the issues. It's also how much can you put in? How much, like it's this whole, you have to use ChatGPT in a good way. You need to be a good prompt engineer.
Exactly.
You can start with this, or like I will always say, you don't need to be a pro to start with this. Not at all. No. And you can also just start and figure it out, and you're going to get better on the way. But to really like, when it comes down now to like, what is the difference between you write now this sentence and I write a different, like you will have to write 10 prompts to get to something what I maybe need in 2 prompts. Again, it's time. Hey, it comes down. You just said the quality, and in the end, it's exactly what we don't have. It's time, right? It's the quality, the administrative burden we have also and I don't want to make it sound fancy. Writing test cases, I believe it's very, very important, but it can also be very, difficult. Then that's challenging. Be still engaged writing it down. How much you write down? Hey, it's also the question. Like I had a conversation. How detailed are your test cases? And I get a lot of different answers. And in the end, I think for me, again, if I have a mature team who knows their product, who knows all of these things, yes, my test cases don't need to be so detailed. But what if I am not available? And then Junior comes onto him and we test something. And the thing is, this is very in the ether, hey? But if I bring it down to look at all the software which is run on medical devices, hey? Be it software run on a device I put into me, the diabetes, heart, like there are different heart devices or diabetes pumps or what that runs on software, to self-driving cars, self-driving, all these things, to software in planes. Hey, we had what did I just read? The Boeing 737 MAX, where I think 2 of them crashed down because they tried to do shortcuts on specific things. The quality was not checked there, and human lives were sacrificed to that. To
Elon
also,
Musk's new chip that he's implanting into people's brains as well.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's also changing. Hey, or we look at banking. Hey, what is like the simplest thing? Banking. And we go to an example which I think touches everybody in their emotion. And I don't think about here my banking transaction does not work, or these millions of dollars. No, you go to your grocery store. You want to pay with your phone, as now banking is on your phone, and that bloody app is not working. Everybody's looking at you. Everybody's looking at you. Why are you not paying? We have no time. Grocery. How embarrassing is that? Because that app which was written, which was something, maybe they changed their terminal or whatever. There can be so many reasons why the integration test might not have worked. And now you are the one standing there, not having a working finance app to pay your groceries, and everybody will like, man, why is it not going any further here? So this embarrassing shows why quality is so important. You don't want that to be experienced, because I can tell you that person will find a different app to do this in the future.
And just coming back to what we were talking about earlier, Christine, that is a feeling, right? That becomes emotional for people. And when we were talking about visualizing it, I asked people to build something that represented quality to them. What essentially, how would they describe quality? What I could do is extend that to say, so how would that make you feel if it wasn't like that? And then obviously it kind of like, well, and you can kind of bring out these situations, these scenarios whereby, so if you were stood in a store and you couldn't pay for something, you have that immediate, oh my God, everybody's kind of waiting for me now. And it's that embarrassment. But then also you might be buying groceries for your family, and now you can't feed your family today because you can't. And it's trying to make people understand it's that ripple effect that something may not, oh, well, that person can't pay. No, that's not the actual, not the impact. The impact is they can't pay, they're feeling embarrassed, they can't feed their family. That's the real impact.
Yeah, and it's so much, eh?
Just going off what you said before as well, Stu, and when we were talking about visualization, if we tie that to feelings, you mentioned about 2 houses, a large house and a small house. And if those houses had windows, one of the exercises you can do, like off the back of that, could be to say, if you remove the window from the house, how does that change your emotions? And you start adding things and taking away things, and then you can see what kind of triggers the individuals, what's really important to them as well.
Ultimately it comes down to understanding your customer, right? And the problem that the world that we live in now, we're trying to go so quick that we lose connection with the actual customer, right? And and ChatGPT can give me all these test cases or whatever, right? Ultimately there's got to be a connection there with the customer and an understanding of what's important to them, and that's what we have to prioritize in terms of what we build, what we test, and so on. So but the world is moving so fast, we just forget about it now. And it's like,
and it's sometimes these simple examples, hey, to bring that back down, what it actually means.
Precisely.
Bad quality product, hey, or like, not, I wouldn't even call just one test skipped. It is just what I say. There was, and I don't know if many people know, I looked a lot in this Microsoft case, and I know it's very ethereal because not everybody had a problem with that, but it was just one file, which was not working on Microsoft servers. It was fixed in 78 minutes, which means it was very, very fast fixed. So it could have, like, the test might have take 5 seconds to check that, and that was not done. And so that airports were shut down and so much other things. And it's this like quantifying risks, hey? Who was not able to quantify this risk? And again, I don't say anything that shifting left, continuous development, continuous integration is not important, but it comes down, what kind of like consequences does your software have on other things, which we sometimes don't see. I'm pretty sure CrowdStrike did not do that with bad intent, but their consequences, and then on Microsoft system and Microsoft, and also it changes now the whole conversation about how much should we set maybe on just one infrastructure versus maybe we should diversify our infrastructure. Hey, these things are so much all about quality. How do we follow these things? How do we communicate about that? And which emotions are we experiencing with that as well?
And the risk, right? The risk to the customer ultimately. And I remember working at EasyJet many years ago, and EasyJet have their offices. Well, when I was there, they were based out the main hangar. So we had the offices at the front of the hangar and the planes at the back of the hangar. So the planes would start up in the mornings, and you get this big roar through the office, which is amazing. But what you could see, you overlooked the airport and you overlooked the drop-off zone for people coming to the airport.
Oh, okay.
And we used to do overnight releases, where we take the entire system offline, including our reservation system, which meant our check-in service. And if we didn't get it back up by first wave of check-in, we knew the impact it would have on the airport, because they have to switch to manual check-in. And you don't want to be over at an airport if they're on manual check-in, right?
No.
So the pressure, you could see, like, at the times when we were still bringing the reservation system back up, and you could, like, you were thinking, first wave, you could literally see the customers, like, and you had that direct connection with the customers of visually seeing them turning up for their flight, and you're going to be the person that delays them. It's like, no. No,
that is a motivator, hey?
It's a motivator, and that's what I mean by having that connection and really understanding the impact. You know, we're not always lucky enough to be able to see visually those things, but we need to feel it.
Yeah,
we need to be able to feel what our customers feel to be able to know what that impact is and the risk that we're potentially going to oppose on them. So yeah, Christine. Well, we're going to have to wrap this episode up really quickly.
Already?
I know, we've been going for over an hour, believe it or not.
I did not realize that. Okay.
No, this has been amazing. One thing, before we do, you kind of touched on a few things that people can do, companies can do, but if you could just wrap it up into one request, and I'm putting you on the spot a little bit here, but I know your sales skills right now are going to come to the forefront of this moment, right? How can people help you and your husband make this a success, Epic Test Quest a success?
I would say join our community. I would say when this episode is going to live, we have our Slack community up, and join us there. Get more information either on my LinkedIn, Aaron's LinkedIn, or Epic Test Quest's LinkedIn page or our website, and join the community. It's all about that. We build, like, the Ministry of Testing community is behind us, but I don't want to, like, put so many things. It's always a little bit difficult also to, like, put so many things in the form, which is actually about software testing. So join us as our design heroes and join our community to be in the feedback loop. We want to iterate now way faster over our prototypes. Be there, give us our feedback, and that we can learn from you. And that's what I always say in every interview. Say positive and negative feedbacks. You cannot hurt my feeling, because I really want to be better. I want to make something which has value to people, not just because I think that's awesome and I think it's awesome. No, I want to bring value to people.
I love that. And you and your husband are incredible people for wanting to do that and change how we do things in the industry. It's an amazing thing. So everybody, you heard Christine, right? Join the community. We'll drop all the links in the show notes. We'll share them on our LinkedIn channel as well. We'll get the word out there, Christine, for you. Most definitely. This has been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it. Chris, I'm going to hand over to you to wrap this up, man, because I screwed up the intro, like, majorly. I can't be done screwing up the outro, right? So I want to say thank you to you, Christine, and I'm going to hand over to Chris to wrap this up. I'm going to put him on the spot now, see if he does a better job than me.
Well, just before we wrap things up, and part of the wrap up, I just wanted to ask one thing from Christine. If you could ask our community, the listeners who follow us, one simple question, and we'll let the listeners tune in and hear the question that you would ask to a QA community about anything at all. What would you want to ask such an audience?
What is your biggest pain point in test case creation? Nice. I think that would be that's one of the pain points we're working on, but I think that's still also one which everybody has different answers, and I always like to see that and learn more, because I want to tackle as many as possible.
Well, I hope our listeners, who when this episode goes live, will comment and add in their thoughts around that. But we'll also put a post out as well to the community as well with that question, and we'll try and get as much information around that as possible for you. But it's been an absolute pleasure to meet you and to hear about you and your husband's journey about Epic Test Quest as well. And I look forward to being part of that journey. Like I mentioned, writers in me and Stu as one of the characters in this journey and the story, and I look forward to seeing what the next chapter is in this book. So yeah, I want to wish you all the best, and thank you very much for coming on.
Excellent. I also want to say thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I really had a blast. It was a lot of brainstorming and coming up with characters of their journey. I definitely gonna, like I said, pen and pen, I'm gonna take that as well. And I really, really enjoyed being here. And I look forward to all the feedback I'm getting also from this community. And I hope everybody who listened to this had a lot of fun. Got a little bit of insight of the entrepreneurial journey. And if you have any questions, also just also drop a comment, write me. Always, anybody can connect with me on LinkedIn without your personal note. Don't use personal notes for me. Don't waste it on me. Do it for a recruiter or something else. I will connect with you because I really want to make something better for all of us.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Christine. And yeah, I'm excited to see what's coming next. I absolutely am. My light's just gone off, so that tells me that we need to wrap up, right? So thank you so much again for joining us. It's an amazing venture that you and your husband are going on right now. And if anybody can help, as Christine's asked, join the community. We'll post all the links. But that's it for this episode. It's been a lot of fun. The energy's been amazing. Yeah, I need to go and have a lie down. I think it's just like been so great, Christine, and yeah, I can't wait to see you again in person, hopefully very, very soon. That's it from us this evening. So we hope you've enjoyed it. Drop your comments, subscribe, you know the drill, and join us next time on another episode of Quality Talks podcast. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.